campaign as an entryway into understanding environmental justice in the Bay Area for students, as we saw that there are issues of recognition, as the tribe is not recognized as an equal stakeholder, as for example with the developers. Issues of distributive justice, as the gravel site is being cited in an area of cultural and ancestral importance, as well as procedural justice, as policies on the campaign and policy processes offer unequal protection. We also talked about teaching real-time campaigns like Juristac, and how they allow us as teachers and students to engage in the process of change and justice by being able to participate and spreading the movement's call to action. And so our goal with this workshop is for you all to walk away with information on this real-time campaign to teach in your respective disciplines and classrooms. And we also aim to provide you with the strategies for how to participate in the campaign's call to action and how to get your students involved. And so I want to introduce and offer a deep thank you to Chairman Valentin Lopez for joining us to talk with us about the Protect Juristac campaign. Valentin Lopez has served as chair of the Amah Mutsun Tribal Band since 2003 and the president of the Amah Mutsun Land Trust since its inception. Valentin is a Native American advisor to the University of California Office of the President on issues related to repatriation. He's also a Native American advisor to the National Alliance on Mental Illness and the Phoebe Hearst Museum of Anthropology. And he's actively involved in efforts to restore tribal indigenous knowledge and ensure our history is accurately told. We also have Michelle Glowa, who's going to be supporting us also with our Q&A session. Thank you, Michelle. And she's a volunteer with the Amah Mutsun Tribal Band and the campaign to protect Juristac. She's also an assistant professor of anthropology at the California Institute of Integral Studies. So I'll pass it along to you, Val. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolina. And hello, and thank you all for inviting me to participate in this workshop you have. It's quite an opportunity to get the word out about Juristac at the same time, to bring our tribe to your attention and to let you know the kinds of issues that that are pretty common and typical among tribes, not only California tribes, but tribes throughout the United States. Our tribe is comprised of the descendants that were taken to Mission San Juan Bautista and Santa Cruz in the central Monterey, in the greater Monterey Bay area. Our creation story takes place at Mount Umunum, which was the tallest mountain peak in the Santa Cruz Mountains. If you were in Los Gatos and looked at the tall peak there with that little square box at the bottom, it's a radar tower. It was a radar tower. That's Mount Umunum. Our creation story is a very long story. We can carry it on for quite a while. But the thing that's important about our creation story is that in our creation story, Creator very specifically gave our people the responsibility to take care of Mother Earth and all living things within our traditional territory as defined by Creator. This is very typical for all Native tribes, not only in California, but again throughout the United States. They all have that same directive from Creator to take care of Mother Earth. Our people took that responsibility really seriously, and they learned a lot about how to steward and take care of the lands. They learned that Mother Earth was sacred, and it was most important that we maintain that sacredness on the land. And that's why we had a lot of prayer, a lot of ceremony. We identified the medicine plants used to help us with our ceremonies and with our prayers. We also learned a lot about how to take care of wildlife, the four-legged, the finned, the winged, etc. And that knowledge was passed on generation to generation. And our people have been here for 12, 14, 15,000 years. And if you think of that in terms of generations, that's 800, 900, perhaps 1,000 generations or more. That's how long our people have been here. And that's how long our people have been accumulating that indigenous knowledge of how to take care of Mother Earth. They learned that all plants have a responsibility to take care of the fungi, to take care of the insects, to take care of the birds, the four-legged, and people. They learned how to use fire as a land management tool to keep the catastrophic fuel loads from building up and becoming uncontrollable, and to do devastating damage to the land. They learned in our territory, for example, the bears did not hibernate. The climate was mild enough that they did not need to, hibernate during harsh winters. But at the same time, that gave us a responsibility to ensure that there were food resources for the bear in all 4 seasons. And our people learned the migrating patterns of the geese, for example, and so we had prepared the landscape so whenever the geese would come in on their migration patterns twice a year, we took care of the migrating salmon, making sure that the rivers were clear and flowing clearly, and that they were well shaded to keep the waters cool as needed by the geese. Our people learned a lot about how to take care of Mother Earth, and then came the tragic, horrible period of our history. And our history includes 3 periods three brutal periods that included the Mission and the Spanish period, the Mexican period, and the American period. And all 3 of those periods, they wanted to destroy our culture, to destroy our spirituality, to destroy our environments, and destroy our humanity. And they thought that our culture and our spirituality had nothing to be offered to them. They believed that we had no soul. If you have no soul, you're not a human being. So regardless of how they treat you, they can torture you, they can enslave you, they can brutalize you, rape you. It doesn't matter. It's not a sin because you're not a human being. You have no soul. They used us as beasts of burden, thinking that they did not want to use their horses, for example, as beasts of burden. They used the Indians instead. And it goes on. And that happened over a very long period of time. During the Mexican period, during the American period, they had laws that's identified today as genocide, and that applied to us. Those, a lot of people think that the laws where they paid bounty money or where they paid militias to go up into the mountains, they went up into the mountains to track down the Indians and to kill them. They think that applied to the Gold Rush Indians, and primarily it did. But it happened in our territories as well. In 1873, there was an article in the Santa Cruz Sentinel that said that the county will no longer pay bounty money for Indian scalps. And that's evidence that that bounty money was paid in Santa Clara County as well, as Santa Cruz County, as San Benito County, as Monterey County, etc. So then whenever we look at Juristac, the history of Juristac, Juristac is the most important and sacred place to the Amah Mutsun. Juristac translates to place of the big head. Our big head ceremonies are the most important ceremonies to the Amah Mutsun. We had 4 tribes living there on Juristac. Juristac is a large area. Today it's identified by the map, on the map, by the size that Sargent Ranch is identified. But Juristac was much bigger than that. It extended east and south of its current boundaries. And and our people were removed from Juristac. When the missions came, they moved our people to the mission. When the missions closed, our people moved back to Juristac. They tried to restore the prayer and the sacredness, and they tried to return to the world they knew, but that was not to be. And then in the 1860s, the smallpox epidemic came through, wiped out about 90% of them, and the remaining 10% were removed from Juristac. It's always been a sacred spot. It's a place for prayer. It's a place that our people need to return to fulfill our sacred obligation to Creator, to take care of Mother Earth and all living things. Over the years, it was used primarily as ranching. There was a number of development proposals made for Juristac, but its environmental values were recognized as being too great to allow those development proposals to be approved. And then in 2014, 2015, Juristac Sargent Ranch went into bankruptcy. And a company out of San Diego, they're called the Distressed DACA, Distressed Corporation of America, or something close to that. They bought it, and they called me before they bought the land. And they asked, they knew that the ownership prior to, the last owner there, he made a deal with an illegitimate splinter tribal group. And they were going to try and get federal recognition for that illegitimate tribe and put a casino there and put that land in Indian trust. And then they could do any development they want on Juristac. We opposed that. We opposed that vigorously. And that casino was denied. But now the new owner came and he said, if we, he offered to support federal recognition for the tribe. And he offered us, that if we cooperated and worked with them, that they would put a casino there at Juristac. They would get recognition for us, get Juristac recognized as into Indian trust, and then put a casino there. And we said no. Now, we realized that if we had a casino there, a lot of these Indian casinos, they make $1 billion a year or more. But our spirituality and our culture is not for sale. We were not willing to make a deal to where we can get $1 billion a year, be a wealthy tribe, in exchange for sacrificing Juristac. We would never do that. And so they went ahead and bought the land anyway. And when I had that talk with a gentleman, his name was Howard Justice, he said that what the company does is they buy land, look to monetize it, make as much money quickly as they can, and then sell it. And so they're trying to get a mining permit now for sand and gravel mining, but they have no intention of being the mining company. Once they get that permit, they will sell Juristac. The current appraised value is approximately $30 million. With a mining permit, they could sell it for between $90 and $120 million. That's a pretty hefty, quick turnaround profit for an investment company. And then they would go out and buy other lands and do the same thing over and over and over again. That's what DACA does. Our tribe is fighting Juristac. Our tribe is opposing the mining permit. And we have very little, there's no laws on the books that, that will protect. We are a federally unrecognized tribe. There's no laws on the books that will allow the Amah Mutsun to preserve our cultural sites, our spiritual sites, our environmental sites. There's no laws in the books that allow that. What we have to rely on in our campaign, what we have to rely on in our campaign is public support, overwhelming public support in Santa Clara County. We're told that that is about the only thing that the Board of Supervisors will listen to. And so we developed a website, Juristac, protectjuristac.org. I know that the link was sent to you. I hope you saw it. I hope you signed our petition, by the way, and shared it with others. But that's our main defense against at having this mining permit stopped. At Juristac, there's also a lot of environmental issues and concerns. There's a lot of concerns. It's a very important, there's huge impacts on the wildlife corridor, north to south, east to west. Juristac is the very bottom end of the Santa Cruz Mountains. Just cross the next street over, that's what the 129 highway, and you're in the Gabilan Range. And so this area here is a very important wildlife corridor for bobcats, for antelope, for deer, for elk, American badger, etc. It's a very important wildlife corridor, north to south. It's also a very important wildlife corridor east to west, from the Santa Cruz Mountains into the Diablo Range Mountains. And so it's very important. Other impacts there are the water. This the sand and gravel is a very effective way of filtering the water down into the water storage, the underground water storage. And if you remove this, the water will not be held in any way. Whenever it rains, the rains will hit and they'll just wash right out to the Pajaro River and out to sea, and that water will be gone. But that underground storage, by the way, feeds creeks, streams, and springs as well, year-round springs. So this is a very important wildlife habitat, as I said, but in the summertime, it provides important water source for wildlife, and that will be lost. And the loss of the ground the loss of the grasslands is also going to occur. And that's going to impact the golden eagle, the northern harrier, the prairie falcon, the burrowing owl. It's going to bring a lot of noise and lights and traffic, and that's going to impact wildlife. It's going to take 162,000 gallons per day, and we believe that right there is being horribly underestimated to wash the sand and gravel and to clean the sand and gravel. This area, the sand and gravel, has a real important underground recharge area there. That's very important. We are, as a tribe, we feel that what we have to do is just look to public pressure and to beg. As an federally unrecognized tribe, there's no laws that help us or allow us to protect our sites. The impact, what we hope to do with Juristac is to someday have it in conservation, and to allow our tribe to return so we can provide our traditional stewardship to the lands, so that we can restore native plants to that area, and restore all wildlife, and we'd like to turn it into a tribal village, a tribal park, rather, turn it into a tribal park. There are tribal parks. There's a couple of tribal parks around the world. I know there's a real nice one in Canada, Victoria, that it's a tribal park ran by tribes. So we'd like to have the same thing here at Juristac and use it as an education center. We can teach about Native history. We can teach about Native traditions of stewarding and managing landscapes. We can teach about culture and spirituality and how to form relationships with Mother Earth, with the wildlife, with the plants, and and restore spiritualities to the land. That's our goal for Juristac. That's our goal. Another thing about another impact that has happened is historic trauma. That history I told you about, the missions, the Mexican period, the American period, that brought tremendous historic trauma to our people. Today, our tribe suffers huge rates, tremendous rates of suicide, of addiction, of depression, of incarceration, of poverty, etc. And we've been working hard as a tribe for the past 10 years on recovering from that historic trauma and dealing with it. And we made tremendous strides in doing that. And a big way that we've addressed our historic trauma is with our Amah Mutsun Land Trust. And you may have heard about that. But it's not only the indigenous peoples that have suffered from historic trauma. The wildlife suffer from historic trauma. You know, because of the change in our diets, today, so many of our members suffer from obesity, from diabetes, from heart issues. Well, the animals suffer the same way. When you look at those landscapes, 96% of those plants are not native. And we need to restore those native plants back to restore the health of our wildlife. And that's something that we're working very hard on. You know, we believe that a lot of these land trusts in the Bay Area, there's over 1.5 million acres have been put into conservation. And that's a tremendous accomplishment. I know that people from Los Angeles and people from major other cities around the country, they see the Bay Area, they're jealous of how we have so much open space there. But the problem with that is that people, they put a lot of money into land acquisition, and then they would acquire the land, and then it wasn't uncommon for them to put a fence around it, put a trail, and then put a sign on the trail that says, "Keep on the trail, be home by dark." And then they would call that stewardship. We believe that so many of these land trust organizations, state parks, national parks, Bureau of Land Management, they talk about stewarding the land, but they have no idea what that means. To them, you know, just signs and you know, stay on the trail, be home by dark, that kind of stuff, is good enough, and it's not. We need relationships with the plants. We need prayer. We need ceremony. You know, I said at the very beginning that we recognize the world is sacred, and we all have a responsibility to restore and then maintain the sacredness on the land. And there's nobody out there intentionally talking about that or working towards that. But we all have that responsibility. We all have that responsibility to restore the sacredness to the land. And part of that sacredness is the relationship that we have with the wildlife, with the worms, with the mice, with the rabbits, with the squirrels, with the deer, the four-legged, etc. We need to pray for them. We need to listen to them. We need to learn from them. They're waiting for us. We need to restore their foods. That's what we need to do, and we would like that to start at Juristac, in the tribal park at Juristac, to start teaching this stuff to the public. And so that's and you know, and we believe that the traditional stewardship of the lands and the traditional ways and the protection of Juristac are a really important way of and showing people how to heal Mother Earth. Too many people today, so many people rely on science, thinking that science is going to provide us the answers. But in so many ways, it was science that gave that, you know, as the way science is applied today, that caused all the problems. I mean, you look at the fungicides, the herbicides, the insecticides. You know, I mean, they Roundup. You know, I mean, the DDT. When I was a little kid, we worked the fields. I mean, I remember there was a 55-gallon drum with DDT in it. DDT was just a little white powder. We were told by the farmer to go in there, we'd stick our hand in the DDT, put it in a sock, and then walk along the plants and dust the plants with DDT. That's science. That is science at work. And that's what we learn. And you know, we need to, science is important. So, you know, I mean, our ancestors were scientists. I mean, our ancestors were scientists. But as scientists, they said, is this good for the next 7 generations? Is this good for the next 7 generations? If it's not good for the 7 generations, you must never implement it or follow through. Today, what determines if science is good for the, you know, is good, is how much profit is it going to make. They were willing to do all the health damage with Roundup, for example, provided the profit margin covered it. And it was just an acceptable risk and acceptable loss. That's okay. That's their way of thinking today. And we need to change that. Einstein said that the same kind of thinking that created this problem is that, you know, you need a different kind of thinking than the kind of thinking that created the problem. And he was saying that about science, because the science created this problem. You need a different solution to solve the problem, to get us out of this mess. And we believe that our traditional ways of doing it, there's great benefits. I mean, like, say, for example, our native plants, the root systems in our native plants go much deeper. And because they go much deeper than the non-native plants, they're more resistant to fire. They're more resistant to flooding. They're more resistant to drought. And they're much more resistant to disease. And so we need to restore our native plants for the benefit of our future. Our food plants, we have we have well over 100 traditional Amah Mutsun food plants. We have 8 different kinds of California Indian potatoes. Those will feed us in the future. But those California Indian potatoes, we do not irrigate our plants. We do not need irrigation. Granted, they do not grow as big as the russet potatoes do of today. But they are still, they are still very viable, and they are still an excellent food crop that our tribe is working hard to bring back for our people, and they can be used for all people. So these are the kinds of things we look at when we look at why we need to, why we're working hard to protect and restore to preserve Juristac, and to someday get access to Juristac. This is what our hope and our dreams are. And I think that if you agree, Michelle, that's kind of like my time. I'll stop there.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chairman Lopez. And I think we're a little bit ahead on the schedule, so potentially we have a little more time for question and answer, or we can add that time to the discussions. But I see already that there's a question in the chat If folks have questions, if you could write them into the chat instead of unmuting yourself and asking it. But the question we have first is, what is currently most needed in the campaign? And I'll add on to that, perhaps Val, you could speak a little bit to what is the current status? What's happening with the mining company's application right now? And how have people been engaging with that?
Yeah, I'll answer that question first. Michelle, and I meant to say it when I spoke and I forgot to cover that. The current status is they're working on they're preparing the draft EIR. And there was a law passed in, I think, 2017, AB 52, that allows Native American tribes to consult early on projects like development projects like this. They're going to have a potential big impact on traditional Native American cultural sites. And so we requested, once we learned of this mining permit coming through the county, we requested consultation. And what we requested for consultation was we requested an ethnographic study, a formal ethnographic study to document the existing evidence that's there that would show Juristac as an important cultural and sacred site. We signed a confidentiality with that study, as did the owners. So I can't share the details with you, but it's very much in favor of the tribe. And a lot of that study is not going to be presented in the draft EIR when it comes out, because a lot of that information is confidential. It talks about where the important sites are, where the burial sites are, that kind of stuff. We don't want to share that. We can't share that with the public. But it does, it will allow the county, we believe, to come to the agreement that it is an important site, and whether that's going to be enough to get it protected or not. But anyway, they were going to release the draft EIR last summer. And what happened is that, it got delayed and got delayed, got more complicated. And now the county of Santa Clara knows that whatever decision they make, if they decide to approve the mining permit, they know they're going to get sued by the environmental organizations and by our tribe. How we're going to pay for it, I don't know yet, but we'll figure that one out. And the other thing is, and then if the tribe, prevails in the decision to stop the mining, then the landowners will sue, because approving this mining permit is well within the general plan for Juristac. A mining permit is allowed here. And so the county will be going against its own regulations by it'll be going against its own general plan if they deny it. And so what they've done, what the county did, is they went to an independent law firm, and they're having them review it, and now they're doing a lot of rewrite of the draft environmental impact report. And they're saying that it will be out in February. No, it'll be out at the end of the summer. And so what we're asking people to do now is just to, if you have written letters to the county, write letters, have your students write letters, have other faculty members, etc., write letters to the county and asking them to to oppose, deny the mining permit. If you went to Protect Juristac website, you'd see a lot of sample letters there that have been submitted by Stanford, by Berkeley, by USF, UC Santa Cruz, etc. You can use those as model of letters that you can send. Other things, as we said, sign the petition, and then share that petition with your family, your friends, your social networks, your students, and encourage them to share it as far and wide as possible. And then once the draft EIR comes out, we're going to notify everybody who signed the petition and ask them once again to submit another letter to the county. And this is when things get real, we're going to, to read over that environmental impact report and provide serious comments on it if you can. Or if you just don't have the time and just say, based on the draft EIR and based on the importance of traditional Amah Mutsun culture and spirituality, we urge the county to deny the permit. Just bombard them basically with letters of support on behalf of the tribe and in support of opposing the mining permit. We are going to have gatherings. There will be public meetings. We're going to have a public meeting once that draft EIR comes out. We're requesting a public meeting, so that people can, so the public can show up and share their thoughts on this and stuff like that. And there again, we'd like overwhelming support at these meetings for people to stand up and in support of the Amah Mutsun tribe. So those are the few things that they could do, Michelle, and that's what we'd recommend.
Great, thank you. I'm going to read off some of the other questions that are in the chat, and I do see that some folks are putting in some fairly specific questions, and so if we don't get to those in the Q&A right now, we can respond to you directly via email or in the notes from the meeting that we'll be sending out. So we will get to the questions. One thing that's come up, Val, that people are asking about are what thoughts you have on what resources can universities provide to support the campaign? Research linked to action, mobilizing faculty and students, etc. Do you see specific roles for researchers, teachers, or students in supporting the campaign?
Well, if you have, for example, if you're in the environmental science area and you're able to provide serious review critique of the draft EIR, for example, taking a look at hydrology, what is the impact that this mine, approving the mine, what impact is that going to have on the underground storage? What impact is that going to have on, it's going to just dry up rivers and creeks and streams, and what impact is that going to have? If you do wildlife biology, you could address those very specific issues. So look to your strength and then comment on the draft EIR to those particular areas. That right there would be very important and very useful.
Great. Another question that came in is, does the Juristac campaign include coalitional work between certain environmental groups and the tribe or other environmental justice groups?
Well, a big partner here, the one that's heading up the environmental concerns for Juristac is the Committee for Green Foothills. They are the ones that are heading up the full effort on Juristac. And we've gone on a lot of speaking tours with the Committee for Green Foothills, our tribe has. But all conservation organizations in the greater Santa Clara Valley area, or Santa Clara County are in support of protecting Juristac. So every one of them, the Sierra Club, the Audubon, all of the major environmental organizations support Juristac. And so, and they're being directed, and that work is being directed, as I said, by the Committee for Green Foothills. And Alice Kaufman is the main contact person there. Okay.
Great. Are there any other questions folks want to enter into the chat right now? If not, should we switch to the discussion groups? Oh, here's a question. Does the tribe currently have access to the site or adjacent areas?
No. No. I've been asking since the 1990s for access to Juristac, and I've been prevented from going there. I've been on the property twice, and both times were related to, were with the county of Santa Clara County employees from the planning department to review the site area. And so we took a look, so we looked at that site area and stuff like that on 2 different occasions. And that was just for a couple hours each time. And that was all. But we were told that we were not, they made it very clear that we should not go on there. And it's as tempting and as much as we want to, we don't go there.
All right. Another question just came in. Could museums and others support your proposal for what you want to do with the land?
Well, what we really want is for the land to go into to be sold for conservation. Now the owners have a standing offer to buy it at the appraised value. So that offer is on the table, and they bought this property in bankruptcy. So they could sell it today and make a profit. But they want to make an obscene profit, so just a little bit of money is not good enough for them. And so what we need to, if the property ever became available and for sale, that's one thing. But then the other thing is if it was to become a village park and stuff like that, we would want to partner with many other groups and organizations to develop the teaching materials and stuff like that related to traditional indigenous stewardship, to show people how to do it and start teaching our students what that means and how to accomplish that. And I'm thinking I missed part of the question, Michelle. Did I miss part of that?
No, I think you answered it. Okay. 2 other questions that came in are,